It has now been 417 days since Kenny Beats was last seen in his legendary cave. Once one of the most iconic studios in all of hip-hop, home to countless unforgettable freestyles, now sits totally empty. And those two words which used to echo across the internet,
"Whoa, kitty!"
are now heard far less. So, what happened to Kenny Beats? Well, as we're about to see, while the truth behind the cave's sad ending is pretty clear, when it comes to Kenny Beats' disappearance though, there's much more to the story than meets the eye. Unlike thousands of today's hottest producers, the journey of Kenny Beats did not start with a viral TikTok hit or in some $1 million studio, but rather instead, in the police station.
How funny Vince Staples is.
Oh my God, I hate him so much. I hate him so much. He ruined my life. Like he came and did that show I was talking about. And he called me the police on it like 5 times in his freestyle. Anything I do on social media is just, oh yeah, thanks officer.
Memes aside, the story of Kenny Beats actually begins in his father's old 1-bedroom apartment in the small town of Greenwich, Connecticut. After picking up a guitar and drum set before turning 11, and then first starting to make beats actually on this video game called MTV Music Generator.
The MTV Music Generator lets you create jams using thousands of instrumental riffs and samples. Just cut, paste, and play. It makes anyone a musician.
Despite not knowing it at the time, even from a young age, Kenny's idea for the cave was formed. Inspired by his earliest idols Timbaland and Pharrell, while in high school, Kenny would start bringing every local rapper into his dad's apartment to record on his cheap blue snowball mic in his closet. And although not exactly the viral YouTube series we're about to get into, this was definitely key in building Kenny's ability to work in person with these different artists. However, his first big break wasn't even through hip-hop. Placing second in a nationwide EDM competition through his school, this was everything Kenny needed to take music seriously. Continuing on to then accept internships in the A&R department for RCA Records, J Records, and one with Cinematic Music Group in 2010, by the age of 19, Kenny Beats had already built himself an impressive resume, with a little help from his classmate.
I went to school K through 12 with Tom Corson's daughter. And I didn't know who Tom Corson was, or other than like my friend's parent. And when I was a senior in high school, his daughter was like, "Hey, you should intern for my dad." And I was like, "Oh, what's your dad do?" And she's like, "Oh, he works at a label." Come to find out, Tom doesn't necessarily work at a label. He kind of is the big dog.
Moving on to then study jazz guitar and music business at Berklee College of Music in Boston, combined with, as he recalls, his method of selling weed and plugging his beats to clients. Through his internship with Cinematic Music, Kenny Beats was able to land his earliest placements with major artists, including Kendrick Lamar, who featured on Cinematic artist Smoke DZA's song Ballgame, produced by Kenny. But would this go down as his peak? Well, despite this incredible accomplishment, basically all thanks to his mom, Kenny had one other accomplishment he still needed to cross off.
I wouldn't have gone to school if it was up to me. My one thing with my mom was, you are going to go to college and you are going to graduate college. And that was a thing since I was 5.
But while attending Berklee though, Kenny would meet this guy, Ryan Marks, a DJ himself. The two quickly became really close friends. So then, in 2012, Kenny and Ryan decided to form an EDM duo together known as Loudpack, which, as it turned out, was actually successful. During his senior year of college, Kenny Beats made the decision to then move out to LA with his partner Ryan, and soon enough, the two found themselves in label meetings and sold-out shows, such as, like we can see here from one of their sets in 2015, where Kenny is locked in on stage.
Just naturally were like, you should try this DJ shit. And as soon as I did, I got a manager, I got an agent, I got flights booked, I had festivals to play. All this stuff started happening in music for me that had never happened being a rap producer as a younger kid.
Despite Loudpack's early DJ success though, inside, Kenny felt very unfulfilled. Entering into a deep hole of depression and creatively burnt out, he was forced to make a decision. "I think I hit a point at 25 years old where I was like, I'm f***ed," he admits. "It's over. I haven't made it yet. I haven't had any huge songs. I did one Kendrick beat when I was 19 years old, and I thought that was my peak."
When you have that feeling of like, yo, nothing's happened yet, nothing's happened in 5 years, nothing's happened in 10 years, now I'm 25, now I'm 30, now I'm 35, nothing's happened yet, nothing's happened yet. You start to have this feeling of like, maybe it's me, maybe it's me. That thought is so dark, and I had those thoughts like, bro, I was making the wrong kind of shit. Like, I was making it and not succeeding at it when I was doing like dance music. And even though not succeeding is a relative term, I had a great run. But my point is, I wanted more, and I was like, as hard as I try to make this shit, it's not turning out how I see it turning out. It's not pushing through.
thus making the bold decision to then end his EDM career. The Loudpack duo was officially retired in 2017, when Kenny Beats returned back to his roots and true love of rap. Gearing up for a strong comeback, his first step was hunkering himself down into Ron Artest's old recording studio in Burbank.
Ron Artest is co-producing a song that he hopes will be the Lakers theme song next season. Even though he says he's given up on his rap career, he's found this song so inspirational that he's decided to do a rap for it.
I just took 6 months and just sat there 12 to 14 hours every single day, recalls Kenny. Deciding to go all in on his passion for hip-hop, 2017 was Kenny Beats' breakthrough year as a producer. However, it was 2018 when he really exploded, landing almost 100 production credits to his name in the year of 2018 alone, including many of the hottest artists out, such as Ski Mask the Slump God, NBA Youngboy, O3 Greedo, Rico Nasty, and Freddie Gibbs to name a few. In addition to his projects with Vince Staples and Key, Kenny Beats' hard work and dedication was paying off right in front of our eyes. Well, sort of. While Kenny's eagerness to collab and preference to work in person set him apart from the pack, it wasn't until one specific idea though in 2019, to let fans see even closer, when Kenny Beats exploded to heights that even he could have never imagined. Before we had Black Boy Max, dudes were watching The Cave with Kenny Beats. In March of 2019 arrived Kenny Beats' first episode featuring JPEG Mafia of his soon-to-be legendary series, The Cave. And despite his initial fear of, quote, being so self-conscious that being a YouTuber or someone who does content would take him out of the cool zone, instead, this did the exact opposite, launching this new show where artists who were typically his friends enter down into Kenny's basement studio known as The Cave, and then freestyle 16 to 32 bars over a beat they make together in about 15 minutes, of course all captured on camera.
And it was a YouTube show, would basically just show me working with artists through any series of problems where we have to record some instruments or we have to write a very obscure song or deal with a weird sample to chop. And it kind of showed a lot about how I work, a lot about how kind of songs are written these days with all different types of people and genres and things, and a lot more of my personality and the artists I work with's personality than people see when we do normal interviews. You know, when you don't know people, certain interviews can feel like, not like you're at home. And The Cave felt like home for a lot of people.
Exactly like how Black Boy Max in DDG's studio session streams do today, with a few glass utensils and lighters scattered all over his desk and Kenny locked into his DAW of choice Ableton. Fans were granted a raw look into the creative process, and the views just kept pouring in, as each new episode of The Cave dropped every other Friday.
Yo, Denzel, welcome to The Cave.
What up, nigga?
Kenny!
Oh, get it!
People are f***ing with something, and it's not just a big rapper every week. It's the energy, it's the vibe, it's the humor about it.
This neon-lit vocal booth below ground quickly became one of the most recognizable studios in modern rap. Like, the list goes on forever of artists who have been featured on the 4 seasons of The Cave, all posted for free to Kenny Beats' YouTube channel. From names such as Doja Cat, Denzel Curry, Vince Staples, Schoolboy Q, Rico Nasty, Lil Yachty, Ski Mask the Slump God, Smino, and Tizo Touchdown, again among many others, as well as a Polo G episode that was mysteriously scrapped, Kenny would never charge any artist for studio time, on top of making sure they always had final say before leaving The Cave. But as for the episodes themselves, it was Kenny's intention to keep them very authentic from the start. The Cave is meant to serve not only as entertainment, but also as inspiration for those who want to be creative with their friends, reads the YouTube description. For that reason, the feel of this show is intensely DIY, not slick and overproduced, and not overthought. Along with also being home to his creative management brand known as DOTS, an acronym for Don't Overthink Shit, which is Kenny's tagline, look at this huge sign, but The Cave was also home to a viral song by comedian Zach Fox, with episode 5 of The Cave spawning Jesus is the One, I Got Depression.
So I have a show on YouTube where I bring real rappers and they come and make songs and I make a beat. Somehow Zach ended up on it. Let's film Zach. We'll do a fake one with Zach.
Yeah.
And then now we're here at Genius.
His most successful song.
This meme song would later be passed by the 2 tracks Phone Numbers and Hit Me Up with Dominic Fike and Omar Apollo. But yet, as it stands, Zach Fox still remains the most viewed episode ever of The Cave, with almost 10 million views. However, one look at Kenny Beats' channel today and you will notice that he has not posted anything in over a year. So what happened to The Cave? Well, prior to abruptly ending the series and moving out, leaving nothing but a $100 bill, a Don Julio bottle, and a few spare coins, and then proceeding to go ghost, disappearing on his fans, something he even admits. First though, Kenny Beats had a few more hits up his sleeve. I just want people to hear that "Whoa, Kenny," and know for the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds I got your back. With his signature 2-word producer tag, "Whoa, Kenny," originally rapped by Atlanta rapper Key.
Whoa, get it!
For a while there, Kenny was doing exactly that, proving himself with every release. As, in addition to the millions of views each Cave episode would pull, at the same time, Kenny Beats was continuing to land placements with major rappers in the game. From new tracks with DaBaby, Smino, Key Glock, Jid on DiCaprio 2, and even Ed Sheeran, to then his 2020 collab project Unlocked with good friend Denzel Curry, Kenny Beats looked unstoppable. Yet, even to this day though, it remains difficult to pick out a quote, Kenny Beats type beat, simply due to one reason: his incredible versatility.
I want to make sure that I never am stumped. I'm never without a certain type of beat or a certain type of song or not working on something. It's a da-da-da-da. Because when I was a kid, the work was so few and far between, like it is for a lot of producers. You eat what you kill. And these days, I've decided to just not leave any room for excuses on my end. You know what I mean?
However, what has always remained constant, though, was his ability to drop bangers. And although initially telling GQ that the idea of doing a DJ Khaled-type album with different artists is just something that never appealed to him, in 2022, that obviously changed. Named after his younger nickname, in August of 2022 came Kenny Beats' debut album titled Louis. But this left us with just one question: what made this the right time for an album? In a press release for the project, Kenny revealed to us more insight on the album. Unfortunately, during the COVID lockdown, his father had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and so Kenny had started turning to old mixtapes his father had made for solace. Once a college basketball player at the powerhouse UConn back in the 70s, only averaging less than 1 point though for his career. Following his athletic days, Kenny's father struggled with substance abuse as well as a divorce, which had trickled-down effects on his son, both positive and negative.
I've seen my dad shoot 1 million jump shots. I've seen my dad on so many Saturdays and Sundays when I was a kid, after he worked all damn week, like go to the YMCA, and I would just sit there with like action figures at 4 years old, and my dad would shoot 1,000 free throws. All those hours my dad spent doing the thing he loved, it always gave me this bar for how bad do I want something.
However, after receiving the news that no one wants to hear, using his father's old mixtapes as inspiration, Kenny Beats went on to then release his debut album, Louis, in tribute to his father. I always said that I wouldn't do a solo album because I didn't have anything to say, but finally I did. Something dark turned into something beautiful. This album encapsulated the feeling of that 1 month. As we'll learn more in a sec, sadly that 1 month would only get worse. But at a total of 17 tracks, besides vocal contributions from various artists, we just hear Kenny Beats' voice once throughout the entire project. Actually a young Kenny's voice, interacting with his father as the host of a fake radio show that his father had made up for his old music.
103.6 FM with my son, Ken III. And we'd just like to introduce him to you and have him say hello.
Hi, I'm Ken Bloom, happy to be here.
As still his only album ever released, Louis remains extra special. However, following this tough month though, in 2022, everything would change for Kenny Beats, at least in terms of his output. Besides a Tiny Desk concert in February and then a credit on Metro Boomin's Spider-Verse soundtrack, Kenny's placements saw a significant decrease in 2023, and 2024 was the exact same. Another short list of credits, especially compared to what we were used to, aside from helping produce an album for the British rock band Idols. The good news though was that Kenny was still releasing new episodes of his beloved Cave series. Well, that was until Kenny Beats made a new announcement which crushed millions. After a total of 4 seasons and 46 episodes spanned over 5 years, the day finally arrived which every fan had feared. Following one last upload featuring Schoolboy Q in April of 2024, we were then met with this message from Kenny himself. We started this show 5 years ago to remember a moment in time. All I could afford was a shitty room with a lock on the door, but we knew something special was happening. I spent 16 hours a day in that room, 7 days a week, telling anyone I could reach to come make music. After a while, we realized everyone who was coming by was going to be a legend. And the Cave started. This show changed my life. Your support changed my life. The on-camera music and jokes, and especially the off-camera ones.
I'm a serious musician.
Stop bullshit.
I'm 40 damn near.
Tips, baby. My meditation. Tune in.
You can go to the gas station.
I'm lit right now.
Why these Japanese women don't like me? And the Flintstones is some real shit.
After 4 seasons, I am ending the Cave, continued his official announcement. If there was any artist you really wanted on the show, such as me personally, I really wanted to see Jid or Tyler the Creator, I promise we tried our hardest. Anyone who ever watched or came by, I can never thank you enough. Before then, concluding with this brand's tagline, don't overthink shit. One of my favorite YouTube series ever. The top comment reads, "End of an era, hate to see it come to an end." However, while others joked that the police station had moved to new headquarters, next came this post in May of 2024, not only showing us that the cave is now empty, and then comparing it to the Will Smith meme. But after this post, this was really the last time that we heard from Kenny Beats. So why did Kenny Beats suddenly disappear? Is this simply another case of a producer who got complacent in their own success, such as Murda Beats, who I covered in a past video on my channel? Or instead is he more like Nick Mira, who quietly stepped out of the spotlight on his own? To add another layer to the mystery, in addition to his viral Cave series, back in 2020 during the COVID pandemic, Kenny Beats had also begun live streaming to his community on Twitch. The streams were great and people loved them, hosting everything from beat battles and studio sessions to then just basic conversations, despite at one point even streaming 40 days straight. As of this video, Kenny Beats' last stream was over 2 years ago, and combined with only 2 posts left on his Instagram, and only this single water bottle left up for sale on his website, this has only raised more questions. However, although again he hasn't gone live since 2023, it is through his past streams though where we can learn more about why Kenny Beats truly stepped away.
The music industry is designed for you to fail. And it sounds like this big, scary, harsh thing. I'm in the music industry. I do this every day. But the music industry is designed, the template of the music industry is for you to not make money. You finally get to the point where you get signed and you get that big check is still fucking you over. So some people go, all I'm trying to do is get to the point where I can get signed or get to the point where I can get a publishing deal. But you're telling me once I get to my goal, then I'm in debt? Yes, that's what I'm telling you. This is how it goes.
Combined with citing your common complaints and stress that accompany success in the music industry, at currently the age of 34 years old, Kenny Beats has also stated that rather than making all this content, now he just wants to solely focus on music. What truly brings him happiness. Not to mention too that after 4 seasons of The Cave, honestly I bet it got difficult for Kenny to keep coming up with new guests and episodes without repeating the same artists, or without inviting rappers who he has no genuine friendship with, which is something he never would have wanted. But while Kenny Beats has continued to release a few new songs this past year, including a new single for Toro y Moi, plus new albums for Provoker and Skyfall, who are quote, one of his favorite bands and favorite young artists. Aside from these quiet releases though, unfortunately there appears to be a little more behind Kenny's decreased output. Along with trying to balance being a major producer, similar to how we saw him get with EDM, it's very possible that Kenny Beats started feeling burnt out and simply needed a break. Something he's also discussed before on stream.
The absolute biggest killer for me for inspiration is whenever I'm overworked. 12-hour days, 14-hour days, whatever, and you're starting to feel exhausted and it feels like a chore to keep going on your music or to open up a new session or to play an instrument. It should never feel like a chore. Burning yourself out is a really fast way to make a bunch of terrible stuff. Even though you're working every day, you're not getting anywhere.
Kenny is not the first producer who needed to step away, and he definitely will not be the last. But as it stands today, besides rumors that he's possibly been working with Radiohead on new music, the latest we've heard from Kenny was on his 34th birthday in May. Thank you for the birthday wishes. This is exactly who I hope to be by 34. I know I've been quiet, but I'll show you all why soon.